Tēnā koutou katoa. Nau mai hara mai te iwi, nau mai hara mai ke HIka. Welcome to HIka. Welcome to the show. HIka can be an exclamation of surprise, even of disgust, a small one, and can also be HIka, my friend. We hope to disturb your thinking a little with this show, but also to be your friend and to make friends with one another through this kōrero. Today, I'm really honoured to have our guest on, Darleen Tana, my whanaunga, my tuakana. Tēnā koe e te tuakana, e te whanaunga, nau mai hara mai ke HIka. Kia ora, it's so wonderful to have you here. Once again, this feels like a whānau show, but where else would we start? Where else in the world would we start apart from with our whānau? So kia ora e te whanaunga, e te tuakana, nau mai hara mai. Kia ora. Darleen, you have done many things with your life. You are a scientist, you are a manager, a leader, a linguist, a thinker, a doer, and a worker in the kitchen at the marae. Most importantly, you're all these things. So it's a great honour to have you here today to think about this kōrero. And your origins are in the north. And so can you tell us a bit about where you're from in the north and growing up and where you grew up and how that influenced you?
Sure. Tēnā koe, e te
Kia
whanaunga.
ora.
Just excited to be here,
Kia ora.
to be very honest, and to all of the whānau whānui, e mātakitaki mai ana, tēnā rā tātou katoa. I was, raised in Whangarei, Te Ringa Prawa. It was where I spent most of my childhood, but, my marae, te Waitangi marae, ko Ngāti Kawa, Ngāti Rāhere, te Matarahurahu, ngā hapu, Oro Māhue is my marae, and that's where I spent most of my, I will say, formative years. Helping out, just one of the many whānau of the hapu, helping out in the back as we all do. Mahia, tērā mahi. I grew up there, always surrounded by the moana, and that's followed me throughout my life in terms of what I want to do. And some of my most cherished memories are actually being with my nanny, my mum's mum, Miriama Taituha, fishing, and just being in that quiet, companionable silence in one way, just fishing and learning all about all those things, Tohu ki te moana, tohu ki te whenua. She was tino ahu whenua, really productive, mara kai. She knew how to get kai, how to read the different tohu. And that's formed a lot of who I am today, actually.
So Ngāti Rāhere, of course, te ti, the home of te tiriti, the home of so much history over the years. How does that feel to you? What was that like growing up around that space, that place? A lot of us go there as manuhiri. We go there, we do our pilgrimages there, go and like to watch the whawhai entertainment, eat our popcorn. Yeah. But what was it like growing up around that home of te tiriti, its meaning, its space?
Well, I guess as a child, not really understanding the significance of it, right? And, in the 70s and in the 80s, it got very noisy. Of course, as many Māori were becoming aware of breaches with respect to te tiriti. For myself as a young child, there growing up, part of the haukainga, our role was really just to manaaki hianga manuhiri, those who came, and that was our role. And even today, our whare that's the home of he whakaputanga. It's the home of te tiriti o Waitangi. And those two, covenants are so sacred for us, and we uphold the mana of those at all times. And it's not just for te iwi Māori, but it's for ngā iwi katoa. So yes, it's on one hand, it's the birthplace of our nation, but for us as Māori, it's where, mana motu haketanga, tino rangatiratanga have real meaning.
So our connection is through te rāwhiti. And so your biological father was my father's cousin. They both met at Tipene, and they both survived Tipene to one extent or another. And so, and I'm not ashamed of my northern connection. I may hide it from time to time, but well, we went up there a lot as children. You know, it was our kaingarua, really. We'd either go down the coast or up to Rafti with our grandfather's sister, Emily Mountain. But, you know, you've noticed over the years the significant kind of change. Like every whare now has a whakaputanga flag. You know, like it's interestingly, you know, the way you describe it, we were just there to awhi, to be the haukainga, to feed the manuhiri. Now the pressure's on to be you've got to know everything about everything. You know, like, how do you kind of picture those changes over time? Has it changed for the locals? Is it still the same? Just seems more visible or, you know, up there as well nowadays.
I think there's so many levels to this, first off. You know, for us as haukainga, we understand the intention and the promise that Te Tiriti o Waitangi holds in terms of how people come to this whenua and we live together. And that's a real promise. It's something positive. I think back to some of our common tupuna who came on the active, bringing Samuel Marsden, right? And how, you know, one of our tupuna was the first European born in New Zealand, and they arrived in the 1820s. How it must have been for them arriving in Aotearoa nei and having to live in this new whenua where, you know, there were no bees to pollinate their kai. They had to learn everything, and how the tangata whenua helped them with that, and they worked side by side, shoulder to shoulder. None of that has changed for me as haukainga, and we see it with every Waitangi Day or Waitangi Week now. We have descendants of, you know, the karuwha are there, and we're all shoulder to shoulder cleaning the toilets, making the kai for the tens of thousands of people who come there. And when I say about many different layers, of course, in the media, how Waitangi celebrations, you know, we're always looking for a bit of a sensationalism, a bit of an angle. But actually, when you're on the ground there, there's just so much, just very lightness of being. And yes, there's wānanga, and yes, discussions, but the mana, the mauri, the tapu is upheld of each and every one who comes there. So, you know, that's part of what I would want to see being translated right throughout the country. And it does happen, you know, within the communities. We see this different celebrations happening everywhere around. And so, yeah, there's much more commonality, I'm going to say it like that, and people just falling in love with, you know, working together and being together and living together. Yeah, so for me, that's where our future is as a nation.
Kia ora. Well, of course, we know the main signing was in May, June in Ngātipuro, but that's fine. That's fine. We'll let the North have its practice run. That's fine. We can. Yeah, and you're growing up with your nan, you know, with the whenua, but also with this massive sense of kind of obligation to manaaki. You know, like every marai's got that obligation, but Te Tii, I mean Waitangi, has it for the nation. Like it, and so you're brought up with this sense of, you know, whether it's with a tea towel or a waiata or whatever the appropriate response to manaaki is, you're growing up with this.
Yes.
And then you go to you're going to whangare girls.
Yes.
And you're a bit of a nerd, you're telling me.
Girly swat. Yes.
Total girly swat. And you're kind of thriving in your education. And then where to from there?
I left the North and went off to Papaioea, to Massey University, and did my bachelor's in chemical technology down there.
Technology.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I love how things work and how things coalesce and how they mix. And
I'm so scientifically illiterate again. The only thing I can think of is Breaking Bad, so I'm a freak. but you know, and also too few Māori are in STEM, right? Taking science as a good option. Yeah, it is. But at the time, you would have been one of the few Māori.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
I was, I think, the only Māori in the whole technology faculty. Most Māori were doing business studies or social work studies, on the Palmerston North campus. So.
And how was that experience, being the only Māori in this, and especially coming from the north, and then
Well, to be fair, I've often only been I've been the only Māori for much of my time.
Yeah.
So Whangarei Girls High was no different. I was a girly spot, which meant I was in, they streamed classes back in that day, right? So there might have been one or two other Māori in my year, but I was just used to doing my own thing. And I when I didn't play netball. That was...
What about the guitar?
Oh no, koretake.
No netball, no guitar. Come on.
I played trumpet in the school jazz band. I wasn't terribly good.
Hey, we all listened to Kind of Blue and thought that I can do that too.
Oh no, it was the only instrument left on that. Pick that up.
Yeah, kapai. And so you did chemical technology, and then where to from?
I went to work for the then Manawatu Whanganui Regional Council. They took me on as an environmental scientist, and because of my hard chemistry background, over the 5-7 years that I worked there, I was responsible for things like hazardous waste, did a massive collection of agrochemicals, the deodorants, the DDTs, the 2,4,5-Ts, and all that kind of thing, off the farms of the Manawatu Whanganui. Contaminated sites management was also my pet, so looking at timber treatment plants and underground storage tanks for petrochemicals, all that grunty stuff. There were very few people generally in Aotearoa who had that capability. So, yeah, I got to work on some pretty neat projects there.
And so the idea of 100% pure, the tourism slogan,
for sure.
You're seeing the dark truth of that.
Well, the dark truth. I mean, the reality is Aotearoa, we live pretty dispersed wise. We didn't have massive industrial activity. We were primary sector. We didn't have a secondary industry per se. It's fair to say that much of the time, I'd be going to Australia, for example, to have a look at what they were doing. The Sydney Olympic Games, case in point, they built one of the villages for the athletes was built on a massive contaminated site area. So we had to go and, we learned a lot from the Aussies at that time.
But, you're seeing the taiao, you're seeing it's, despite not having, the kind of Chinese American levels of industrialization, we're still managing to poison Opatunuku perfectly well.
Absolutely, and Greenpeace is starting to come out into force, in the early 90s then as well. So lots of talk is coming out about environmental responsibility, sustainability, those kind of words were coming out. Resource Management Act was also very new too. So just looking at how our attitude towards protecting, our environment and our mokopuna livelihood going forward, we weren't talking about those things back then. But I was starting to observe how the Europeans in particular, the Dutch, were really getting tighter on their national standards with industrial chemicals and so forth.
And you're seeing this through the literature, engaging with the research.
Yeah, with policy analysts, then Ministry for the Environment. We'd had different working groups across the country. And
so you go to Europe?
I ended up with a scholarship to study abroad, and it was fully paid. So I went to Brussels in Belgium, which is the political capital, if you will, of Europe, where the European Union institutions are represented, significant representation. And I did my Master of Business Administration there.
in Brussels.
In Brussels, yes.
Because an MBA is not hard enough. You want to go do it in Brussels.
Well, an MBA is like, it doesn't matter that you have an MBA. It's where do you get it from? Is it from Yale? Is it from London School of Economics? And I just thought, wow, I'll go to Brussels, thanks. It was, 30% of the population of Brussels is from somewhere else.
Yeah, right.
And you have all the lobby groups there. You have major corporate internationals have their European headquarters there because they can lobby, right? They can attempt to influence. And I thought, what does that look like, actually? How do you take political decisions in such a sphere with such diverse needs, demands, influences, including those from corporate? How do you do that in that sphere? So, I thought, let's get some seats up front.
Right. So an MBA is, hard enough for most of us humans, and then you want to add in the complexity of European politics and kind of how they wānanga, how they think through their because the EU's a constant kind of challenge in itself. I mean, look at Brexit, like holding itself together, how it negotiates. So you not only want to do an MBA, you want to do it in a really complicated kind of environment. Sure. Well done,
sure.
Right?
And another deal as well.
Yeah. Well, okay. And what's the deal? What's the deal?
Well, in Belgium they have 3 deal. Yeah. French, Flemish, which is, you can say it's kind of like Dutch, and German.
Yeah.
And it's a fascinating place. I mean, I went with a bit of schoolgirl French, right? But that was just nothing because
yeah.
Well, it's also accents. So my high school French teacher was from Paris.
Oh, yeah.
But in Belgium, the dialects are very different. And often if you're speaking with, somebody from let's say an African nation, it's a entirely different dialect. So you don't know what you're hearing. Belgian French, Wallon, is again a different accent. So it was hard to get around. But
so you had a little bit of schoolgirl French, and then. So you just the immersion, kind of
Ana, because the music is in French. You're in the whare, in all the homes, the shops, it's all in French. The advertisements are in French. I think 3 weeks in, and my head is just falling apart. And then I discover Xena, Warrior Princess, on the TV
in French.
When Xena started talking, it was French dub over, it was weird. So could pay to that. So if you want to, my thing is, if you want to eat well, and quench yourself, and also learn all the good jokes, then learn the local bill.
Yes, of course. Ka whai. Okay, so you're learning languages, you're doing your MBA and you're learning the politics of Europe
and the way of being
in its political capital. With what purpose? What's in the back of your mind? What are you thinking I'm going to do with all this?
Look, at the age of 26, 27 years old, I'm just out to experience the world and have fun.
Yeah.
Okay, and I like to think that's not changed.
Yeah.
It's not changed. Yep. And that's perhaps been the most motivating thing, discovering different perspectives, different senses of humour, right? Because humour is very different and how we interpret things is very different. So I think ultimately, when I reflect on it now, it comes back to my time as a young child growing up in Waitangi and the promise of te tiriti, being able to not necessarily bridge people together or weave people together, but to find a way to mesh together and to be together. And there's going to be wobbles, but that's okay. You're shoulder to shoulder, and you'll face those akanohi. You'll face those together, looking in the eyeballs of somebody there. Because let's face it, communication, 20% passes in the verbal. The other 80% is in the interpersonal and the non-verbal. Yeah.
That was a joke for our crowd listening on audio.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so you've done the MBA.
Yeah.
You're living in Brussels?
In Brussels. I was there for 17 years. Yeah.
Doing?
Well, I was no longer working as an environmental scientist. I worked in the National telecommunications company,
Right,
then
right.
called Belgacom. I think when I first arrived, there was something like 22,000 employees. It was still publicly owned, and only, let's say, I think a very small proportion of the employee population had any tertiary degrees. Now, this was 1997, right? 97, 98, 99. And back here in Aotearoa, we'd already undone the local loop. We'd already unbundled that.
The common thing.
Yeah, massive changes here, and in Belgium, none of that had happened.
Still like the old post office.
Oh, entirely.
Right.
If you wanted, just to share an experience, you wanted to get your phone connected in Palmerston North back then, I'd walk 15 minutes down to the local shop in the town, give them my number, and by the time I've walked home, I've got home, it's connected. In Belgium, you go to the teleshop, you've got to talk through a bulletproof glass with somebody having a cigarette on the other side, not really caring whether you're there or not. After you've waited for an hour in some ambiguous queue, you can't understand a dang thing. Standard time was 2 weeks connection, but nothing was ever standard. So, it was great.
Gallic shrugs abounding.
It was crazy different. So I saw that here was a huge company that needed to go through some significant changes because competition was coming and fast. And in Aotearoa, we'd seen that already. And I wondered, how the heck does a company that big go through those changes while still upholding the needs of the individual employee? I met people in that company. There were 5 generations of employee. Same whānau. They went there for security. They weren't interested. They weren't aware. Then they couldn't be interested in customer experience and things, the notions that we talk about today. So I was a fly on the wall for many, many years.
Wow. But meanwhile, you're getting married and having children over there?
I know. Yes.
Wow.
So my darling is Danish, right? Just to add another dimension.
Yeah.
And of course, that means I have a mother-in-law who loves to talk to me in the kitchen in Danish, right? So that was another deal.
Oh, yeah.
I had to pick up. And mihi atu kia rātou. So we have 4 children together, and they're all born in Belgium. Their mother tongue is French. And it was a big adjustment for them to come back home to Aotearoa because suddenly I went from speaking French to our babies. And the reason we spoke French was because one of our babies was born pretty deaf.
Oh, yeah.
And we discovered it too late. So we had to switch from being a one language, one parent philosophy, and we all had to switch into French, because that was the environment that she could try. We tried to accelerate her learning.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
And then you come home.
We came home. We wanted to give our babies an opportunity to live first-hand experience in Aotearoa. What does it mean? In Brussels, we were worldwide citizens. When our first 2 were born, my darling and I were not married. And I discovered that because they were born outside of Aotearoa, they could not be considered New Zealanders by default. Hako he Māori. And because my darling and I were not married, they would not be Danish by default. And because I was not European or Belgian, they could not be Belgian by default. So they were born stateless.
Wow.
Was not usual. And, my thought went to, what am I going to do? What if I walk in front of a bus tomorrow? What's going to happen to my babies? And my husband said, well, that's a choice. But, he said, wow, that's official. Our babies are worldwide citizens. And that stuck with us, actually, as a whānau. So coming back into Aotearoa was challenging for them because we were surrounded by this diversity of ways of being and coming into an environment. It was stunning for my husband to see people look at me and say, oh, she's Māori, oh, she's woman. he observed for the first time a sense of othering that he'd never experienced with me in Europe. It was, yeah.
You mean the way people responded to you here?
Yeah.
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 They didn't, like, because in Belgium, it's, like you said, a lot of the population's from, you know,
Everywhere.
Nahoe
Yes, that's right.
so
Yes.
so you have to come home,
Yes.
okay, to experience that. Eh?
Yeah.
Good on us, Aotearoa.
I just, for me, personally, I just thought, oh, well, that's cute. Mina kapai. It's okay. But I knew that when people would engage with me, there was a sense of, I can't be the boss. I don't know what's going on. And I would engage back in different kōrero. And, it was often fun, and fun to see the surprise go on in their eyes. Actually, I can talk numbers. I can talk business case. I can talk finance. Yeah. What a go ahead, Aru.
Yeah, not with the netball or the guitar, but I can do other things.
I think I'd progressed to ukulele by then, to be fair.
And maybe like 8 or something small.
4 strings.
Yeah. Kapai. And you're back here, and you start to think about politics at some stage. And
that really came late, because, our whole focus when we came to Aotearoa, we have 4 babies who don't speak English, right? They only speak French. And so our total focus was just, for the first few years, how do we look after them? And so that was that. Both my husband and I are very entrepreneurial. And just as I'm about to launch my business, hubby has a conversation with somebody, and he buys into electric bikes. And I'm I can do the front loading, the visioning, the strategy. Those are some of my strengths, but I can also do the back office stuff. So where he was having these great ideas, I was trying to work out, okay, now how do we make that happen? How do we do that? How do we sell that? How do we do the online stuff? So we invested in us as a family unit, being able to work together to look after our babies and to be flexible in terms of our timing arrangements around home. And then in 2020 at Waitangi, we'd just completed a ride. My husband and I were mobile bike mechanics, if you will, for a group of people from HIka who wanted to put in a submission on the carbon zero bill. So they rode from Waiheke to Poneke. Average age 65, 70.
To Poneke, so, wow. Okay.
It's a long way. It's a long way. And so hubby did the first leg as their kind of, mechanic on hand, if you will. And then I jumped on around Featherston. And it was a great time. And then the following Waitangi, they were a bit surprised some of those riders were there. They had a stand up at Te Tii, and they were surprised to see me there. They thought I'm from Waiheke, or Tamaki Makaurau. And I says, no, this is home for me. So they asked me then to stand for Northland as a paper candidate. I don't know what paper candidate meant, but talking with my husband and kids, we knew that I needed a break, from working with when you work with your tane, love him, but I just wanted him to be my tane, not my boss, not my employer. So I parted ways operationally and moved back north to Kerikeri, used that as my base and started campaigning and discovered kind of on the fly what politics was in Aotearoa.
Well, and so obviously, with the Greens, with the kaupapa of, well, not just the tail, but justice, social justice, the two being inextricably tied together. And you're thinking about policy, and you've got this experience with the environment anyway. And so, like what stood out for you? Like what particular issues called to you? Big question, but what drove you?
Nothing in particular nothing in particular drew me. But I will say, it was this idea that tangata tiriti and tangata whenua could work together. And it was a very natural progression for me, having grown up in that realm, right? Having raised my babies in that kind of space. I mean, wahine Māori, married to a Danish, speaking all the reo you want. And how do we create this world where our babies can be legitimately somewhere, anywhere, all the where, right? So that was it essentially. And as I progressed on and started looking closer at some of the policies, I could see, okay, they say te tiriti, but it's not really looking like it. So there's another level of understanding and enlightenment that we need to take the party through. And so after the election, I was asked to be kaiwhakahaere Māori. Because at that time, Dr. Elizabeth Kerekere and Te Anō Tuiono, who were the kaiwhakahaere Māori within the party exec, they became MPs. So those spots became open. And Dr. Elizabeth Kerekere asked me if I would. And I said no. I said no. What do I know about all of that? I mean, I did know a lot about all of that. And so, that began my journey within the executive of the Green Party, actually.
Just a quick side observation. I'm pretty sure your humility is from Ngāti Rāhiri, because it's definitely not a Ngāti Porou trait, I just want to say. So we struggle with humility. And humidity. Yeah. So, okay. So you're doing that policy work and yeah, I mean, of course, someone from your whakapapa with your experience, that expertise, including Europe,
Yes.
which is extremely complex relationships in there, and yeah, okay, and you are the hapu of Te Tiriti. If anyone's got a claim to that, Ngāti Rāhiri, and so you're in that space, and then the next election comes around.
I know,
and you're on the list.
Yes, and getting to the list was tough. It was a question for me personally. Do I really want to? And it took a long time for me myself, for a bunch of reasons, to want to put self forward. I mean, I had a lot of fun in 2020. I rode my bike around the Tokero. It was a crack up, and I could go and on my bike ride, I'd meet with the farmers and we'd have a kōrero on the side of the road. I discovered so much about people, and but 2023 was a little bit different because I'd already done that. So if I was going to do it again, oh crikey, people might want me to be more serious about it. How would I feel being in the front, being in the spotlight around those things? And that was daunting, frankly. And then when Marama Davidson asked me to stand for Tāmaki Makaurau so that she could focus on the national campaign, e wiri ana, was nervous. But, I did my karakia. I went for my kei te moana, came out full body yes, So, however that tide may carry me, okay, I had to be in that space. And
well, just to say, I'm going to get in trouble for this, but I voted for you on the in Tāmaki Makaurau. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then you enter Parliament on the list.
Yes.
Yes. And yeah.
And didn't really get a shot to do anything.
But what are your just in terms of your initial, you're in the Den of Lions this week. But what are just your reflections on Parliament as a space? As a space,
I loved it. I loved it. On my mummy's side, te awa, te iwi. So connecting with my te awa whanaunga, there was wonderful, and many of them in Ngāti Pōneke when I was sworn in as a member of Parliament. my auntie, you know, gave me a kakahu that her mummy had woven, and it was Ngāti Pōneke. You know, it was amazing. For me, there was an element of coming home. I would walk through the halls of Parliament and just feel pātū. It was beautiful. The mahi was great. I loved, because I'm a girly swat, I like to read all of those things and understanding very well how to capture the voices of everybody, how to get the different perspectives. I was looking forwards to working across the whare because, you know, I'm not a person who does divides. I am naturally a person who will work with anyone and on anything. And we have to, because it's for the betterment of our mokopuna. It's not for me and my career. So yeah, I love that space.
And then you've described it to me as te kore. Te kore, te ko. Things turn, and, you know, I'm sure our viewers at home can go find a million takes on what happened, and but it becomes a very dark time for you. You know,
Yes.
media, the pressure, isolation, and eventually the Green Party and folks stole waka jumping legislation.
I'd prefer to call it party hopping, if we may.
Yes, sorry, yes. No, of course. Look, why is it named after Māori? You know?
Right.
Why has it got this Māori type? Because, well, why not? You know, like, let's tag everything bad as a Māori thing, right? So, I yes, of course, sorry. But yes, a very dark time for you. And media, you know, see Māori in distress and they sharpen their fangs and... You know,
look, it's so surreal. Like, the whole environment was so surreal. When you are in a position of not knowing what the heck is going on, and people expecting you to know what the heck is going on, and then, you know, further out, the public insisting that, you know, it's really tough. I mean, I was not prepared for that. I was...
Who would be?
I was really stunned by... And to be truthful, I have not even still looked through all of the media because it was so insane what I was hearing or reading. And even with the investigation, you know, I'm somebody who will just trust and just go with that, however that tide or flow is going. And I just had to breathe through that. And when I understood the tohu and how it was tracking very badly against me, and the predetermined nature with everything. People have said witch hunt. I don't necessarily see it like that. I just see it like, holy HIka, stuff just got suddenly out of control and we didn't know how to handle that channel. And so, you know, quick decisions, fast decisions, because that's the style. Shift her aside. And people have said to me, Darleen, it's just politics. And I go, well, is it really? You know, there's a lot of double standards that are going on. And for wahine Māori, especially, you know, there are examples of other MPs whose, you know, whānau tata, be it husband or son, you know, have done some stuff. You know, and there's been, you know, crimes committed. They still are being upheld, you know, by their party, and that the, you know, other parties, such as the Greens, have not been able to uphold mana wahine tanga, is on them, you know.
And, you know, the facts are with the Green Party, in Matiria Ture, Elizabeth Kirikiri, yourself, you know, again, the images, why are Māori failing schooling? Well, it's not the Māori that are failing the schooling, it's the schooling that's, you know, there's a point where it becomes the systematic nature of this, right? Like, why are Māori women so, you know, vulnerable and part? Well, wait, let's have a think. Is it them or is it the system?
It's the system, but it's also them, in the sense of, before going into Parliament, people said, "Oh, kia tūpato, take care." How do we uphold our wahine? How do we look after our Māori when they're in those spaces? And for me, it's very simple. Me noho koe pū mau Māori. So when you're walking down the corridor, I was walking down the corridor, and I would see, Māori, and I'm not going to name names because it's all of them, coming towards me, and I will go kia ora. The minimum you can say is kia ora back. But nothing. That didn't happen. There were very few people who would even acknowledge my presence there. So, it's structural, but it's also about us,
I mean, acknowledging the tapu and the mana of individuals, regardless of, disagreements you might have, and the diminishment of that mana and tapu in such a variety of ways.
Well, we can talk about diminishment, but whose mana is it?
Yes,
so,
exactly. Yes.
For me, and in my maiden speech, I talked to the Māori and the mana and the tapu. And I talked to Hakaiti. I talked to Haka, to Iākui. And my teachings, and it's not an obligation, it's just somewhere inherent, is always to Hakaiti myself and to celebrate the magnificence in the other. And I can't do any different. Even if I wanted to. I feel uncomfortable about it. It's maybe it is a muscle within me that's just not flexed. I don't know. But
well, it is beautiful, and I think again, just my way of thinking is, the acknowledgement of the tapu and mana of others requires you to, to respond in that way.
That's right.
And it's not a matter of contesting, And so, yes, this dark space that you enter into. I just want to run an idea past you. We've had a little discussion about this beforehand, but just, this episode's about you, but I'm just going to talk about myself for a little bit. I've had, as I've shared with you, I've had a significant, very difficult year this year, probably the most difficult year I've had in my life. And I've failed at something. I've hurt people around me. I've failed at my leadership. I think I've let down my values in significant ways at times. The sense of, I'm not saying you did that. I'm just saying that's my experience. But what I think we have in common is where we ended up. And this idea, just to test this idea of whakamā. So this idea of, one translation is shame. I think whakamā is a pretty powerful kind of concept. When through the actions of ourselves or others, our tapu and mana is impacted. Yes, not necessarily diminished, but impacted to the point where we doubt ourselves. We start thinking, where is my mana? Where is my tapu? And we're thinking about how it might not be possible to restore it from time to time. That type of response. So that idea of whakamā, I think is pretty powerful. The American academic Brené Brown talks about shame as the most important emotion for people. She describes it as the intensely painful feeling or experience of believing that we are flawed and therefore unworthy of love, belonging, and connection. Just kind of want to test those ideas because, I think we've got this inherent sense of, well, we're this and we always will be, and we've got these people around us, and yet it can still be tested significantly. Like, where did you get to with that? Your sense of self, your sense of your own mana in this journey, especially at its darkest kind of time.
Oh, yeah. And look, I do want to acknowledge the dark because it's been over a year now since I left Parliament and not on my terms, but that's okay. But yeah, the dark is real. And, in that space, there's nothing. There's, when your identity is impacted, when all of your your contributions to community, to society are cancelled when you're isolated. When, it's real. And I want to acknowledge particularly all those who are going through that. And as I've, part of the reason why I'm here today is, I'm not out of the, HIka, but I'm cognizant, I'm aware that there are many people who are struggling. So if my experience, if there's something in there can touch somebody else, I'm grateful.
Sure.
I'm grateful.
Well, kia ora whanau,
But-
I'll just say quickly,
Yeah.
we're both sitting here talking to each other.
I know.
So,
I know.
it's a beautiful...
We're talking to each other, but we're also talking to all of those around us.
Yes, exactly.
Neha.
But we made it through the, kia ora.
And, so I myself am fortunate, thankful that I grew up i te ao Māori. So and there's also a resurgence around some of these things, Māori frameworks, ao Māori perspectives, and things like te kore, te pō, te awatea. These are whakaaro framings that I could connect into again, trust the ebb and flow. To be in those spaces, because for myself personally, everything was stripped. Everything was stripped. I no longer knew what my purpose was.
Yep.
Yeah. Let alone my passions. Why am I here? Existential crisis, some would say. All of that. Phew. But I was able to go back into whakaaro Māori around te kore. And that held me. It held me because I knew my tupuna were with me all the way. And that I could go through such an experience, visible experience, at a scale. I mean, even my friends and whanau in Europe are reaching out to me. It's news there. So this was worldwide for me personally and for my whanau. That I could go through that actually is kind of awesome.
Kia ora.
It's kind of awesome. And that I could be held was freaking awesome. And so, going through te pō similarly, and you know how many nights there are in te pō. Hey, te pō roa, te pō tango. And it's all those stages and all those acknowledgements you just have to go through. Yeah. And even though, I'm sticking out in Kāwatea, there's still aspects to that. And each needs to be honoured. And so for me, ha tera mea whakamā. And I had to ask my aunties and my mum, what is whakamā for you? And for them it was to be shy, to be maybe embarrassed, but shame e kao, And I reflected on that further and I went, okay, no hea tera whakaaro, shame. Mai te whenua tera? Is that from the ao whenua? Or is that from something else that mankind has created? And so, I don't feel, shame does not resonate for myself, but not for anybody else neither, is what I want to suggest. Think into that. Where is that? Is that mine? Does that belong to me? And as I've spoken with different people about, actually, no, it doesn't. It's coming in from all kinds of conditioning, all kinds of thinking. But the purpose of reflecting on yourself, what do you want out of life? Joy, what joy do you want to be to your loved ones, That's precious. And I would say in today's hectic, hurly-burly, hoodie, it's even more important that we take those times and just, what do we want to do? Where are my talents? Where can I really, blossom in this world?
Obviously, my answer to that was podcasting. I podcast,
Clearly.
therefore I am.
Clearly.
So, yeah.
Clearly.
I look, just listening to you is inspiring for me because, still struggling with the journey similarly to you. And so the way you're thinking about it, the way you're framing it, I find, really inspiring. So thank you for knowing. The great Northern philosopher, Tana Stevens, he moonlights as a creative and amazing creative film and television, but he's really a deep, deep philosopher.
Yes.
He talks about whakamā, also whakamā being an opportunity to reflect.
Yeah.
An opportunity to, there is a kind of, humility that is forced upon you in different ways. And then, again, your point of what's the purpose? I thought I was supposed to do this. It seems not. So what am I supposed to do?
Yes.
And so, early days, but what answers are you coming up with? You grow up with this life of monarchy, of exploration, the sense of seeking the world, seeking those Pākehā tools, as Ngata would refer to them, yet holding the taonga of your tipuna so close. And then, the calling is to service in Parliament, which you love as a nerd. And then that doesn't, work out. And so where to? Any thoughts as to where your gifts might be?
I don't have a clue.
No.
And being all right with that is quite a relief for me because, girly swat, hand up, but also hand up control freak. You got a plan. You got some ideas. Oh, it makes sense that I would go into Parliament because of this and this and this. I have the business, I have this technical, I have the Māori, I have all the things. Yeah, natural. To be able to say today, I don't know, is such a relief. I feel like the pressure has been almost taken off. What I am doing is investing in things that give me joy, that create joy in my loved ones closest to me. Because we still have a bit of a rahui around us as a whānau unit. My kids are just finishing high school and university. They've had, it wasn't just me who got slammed, eh? It was my kids. It was my tāne. It was our whole whānau, a notion of whānau. So, it's about them. So, it comes back to manaaki. Making kai. For the people that I love, seeing the joy in their eyes. I've been pulling back some of my old recipes because my kitchen is, a little bit of Māori, it's a little bit of Danish, it's a little bit of French, Belgian, Moroccan, all these flavours going on. So being able to recreate kai from all over those spaces, those flavours, and to see my babies go, yum, So that brings me great joy. In the same way as helping different groups with funding applications for their important mahi, be it, mahi in the moana or the ngahere, or with whānau. That's very satisfying too, because that's a need that's not able to be fulfilled for them otherwise. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that is inspiring. Also, it's making me hungry. And next year, apparently, there's an election or something like that.
There is. Yes.
I think, quickly, one quick question for you, provocative question. Would you vote for the Green Party?
He wānanga kei roto ia. Okay, why? No he tira pātai.
I think with what's happening with the Pāti Māori, I think a lot of our people are thinking, right, what are our best options? Because we're good at this, right? We like to think like this.
Okay.
I think, and certainly in my head was like, Labour, but we know Labour, and we know good and bad about Labour. And the Greens, I don't think Māori have really given them...
They promised a lot.
Yeah, and I don't think we've ever really given them enough of a chance, but, their track record, I'm just not sure, and...
So, yeah, look, what I want to say is the experience, I went in with the Green Party because I wanted to do politics differently. And they were saying all the right things for me. And I'd worked within the party executive to bring in he whakaputanga, te tiriti o Waitangi, to look through our policy. And Dr. Elizabeth Kerekere was really out the front there too, embedding te tiriti o Waitangi into the policies around for our rangatahi, for our BTQ whānau as well, for health, and I did the same for Moana. If you look to those policies, you see, te tiriti o Waitangi actually in there. And in the campaigns, we started to see that. But my experience has shown that just like any other political party, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, it's just how it is. It's not who do we vote for in the next election? Everyone's saying like one-term government, right? But what's the alternative, whānau? Because I think this is where it's not about who do we vote for myself personally. And it's not just that each party is a little bit cooked. The whole system, the whole political system, parliamentary system in Aotearoa is cooked. It does not in any way resemble the promise of te tiriti o Waitangi. That's the first thing that fundamentally needs to change. It's not like how much extra putia can I get in my back pocket or how much money can I save at the doctor's. Yes, all of that. But fundamentally, what is your roadmap to constitutional reform in Aotearoa? As a nation, we need to have those discussions. We need to be living shoulder to shoulder, understanding what that is, facing those wobbles a kāno hira. Civics, education. It's crazy for me that we have a relatively high turnout for the national elections, 80-something%, but a pathetic turnout, 40% in the local government. I'm a big believer in the power of the people, which is the power of the communities, and that can be hapu, can be marae, can be, communities, villages. I don't care. That's where the real power is. We do need to be investing much more in our local government, more so than the national ones. When they start, they've set the local government scene up to fail, frankly. Financially, they're set up to fail. And, I don't necessarily see eye to eye with some of the mayors around town here. But what I will say is I do appreciate their fight back to national government for, greater say financially. Because we can't keep the local ratepayers, having to cop that bill. So it's constitutional reform. We need to just vote. Get that. We need to learn about te tiriti. We need to understand what politics looks like. It's not even just MMP versus first past the post. We have examples. Denmark, for example, has mixed member proportional representation. Go and check out how many political parties they have. It's a few more than 6. And when an MP gets in there, under a party label, the number of MPs who party hop and become independent is quite impressive. So, whānau might go and check out how the rest of the world actually handles democracy. I think maybe that's part of the issue here in Aotearoa nei. We're so focused on ourselves and looking at the minutiae when actually the beauty is also in some of that wider vision stuff. And we have that.
So, ka pai te whanau. Anyway, thank you. It's been such a pleasure and honour listening to you today, to have this kōrero with you, just sharing with you. And thank you for your honesty and your insights and your wisdom. And again, I'm really excited about what you're going to do next, and
Thank you.
everything that you bring to Aotearoa and to the world. Acknowledge it too, and your whānau today as well. We'll just finish with a quick benediction, if that's okay. Kei noi tātou. Era toitu te rangi, toitu te whenua, tu te aroha o te atua, toitu o na manaakitanga kei rungu i a tātou katoa. Mauri ore e te atua, matua tama wairua. Āmine.
Āmine.